Part 1. The Foundation. Here's something nobody tells you about success. It's not hiding in some complicated strategy. It's not locked behind a paywall. It's not reserved for people with special advantages you don't have. What if I told you that the distance between where you are right now and where you've always dreamed of being is just 60 minutes, not 60 hours, not 60 days, 60 minutes, one single hour, every single day? I know what you're thinking. If it were that simple, everyone would do it. And you're right. Everyone could do it. But here's the heartbreaking truth. Most people won't. Not because they can't, but because they'll convince themselves it's too simple to work. They'll wait for the perfect moment. They'll start tomorrow. They'll make excuses that sound so logical, so reasonable, that they'll never realize they just talk themselves out of transforming their entire life. But not you, because you're still here, you're still reading, and something inside you knows that this time could be different. By the time you finish this journey with me, you won't just understand how to use 1 hour to change everything. You'll know exactly how to protect it, maximize it, and make it so automatic that skipping it feels physically impossible. You're not going to learn some productivity hack. You're going to discover a systematic approach to becoming the person you've always known you could be. The people who truly transform their lives aren't the ones trying to overhaul everything overnight. They're the ones who understand something beautiful, that small focused actions, repeated with love and intention, create results so profound that people will think you've discovered magic. Your transformation starts right now, right here, with understanding why a single hour holds the power to reshape your entire existence. Chapter 1. The Mathematics of Miracles. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus worked at a demanding tech startup, had a partner he loved, 2 kids who needed him, and a constant feeling gnawing at his chest that life was passing him by. He'd scroll through social media late at night and see people his age doing extraordinary things, launching companies, running marathons, writing books, learning languages, and he'd feel that familiar ache. They must have something I don't, he'd think. More time, more energy, a secret I'm not in on. Then one rainy Tuesday afternoon, everything shifted. Marcus was having coffee with an old college friend who had completely transformed her life. 3 years ago, she'd been in the same place Marcus was, overwhelmed, stuck, dreaming, but not doing. Now she was fluent in 2 languages, had written a published novel, and radiated this quiet confidence that Marcus envied. What changed? He asked, expecting some elaborate answer about life coaches or retreats or quitting her job. She smiled. I started protecting 1 hour every morning. That's it. 1 hour every single day before anything else could steal it from me. Marcus went home that night and couldn't stop thinking about it. 1 hour. Such a small ask. But when he really thought about his days, he realized he was giving away dozens of hours to things that left him empty. Hours watching shows he didn't even enjoy. Hours scrolling feeds that made him feel worse. Hours in a fog of distraction that led nowhere. What if he reclaimed just one? Here's what Marcus discovered and what changes everything once you truly understand it. The gap between ordinary and extraordinary isn't measured in years or talent. It's measured in hours. Specifically, It's measured in how you use 60 focused minutes, day after day, until those minutes compound into a completely different life. Let's break down the math, because once you see these numbers, you can't unsee them. One focused hour per day equals 7 hours per week. That's 30 hours per month. That's 365 hours per year. More than 9 full work weeks dedicated entirely to becoming better at something that matters to you. Now, most people think linearly. They assume 1 hour of effort equals 1 hour of results. But that's not how transformation works. Transformation doesn't add up. It multiplies. It compounds. Each hour builds on what came before. Each day of consistent action makes tomorrow more effective. Each week of momentum makes the next week exponentially more powerful. This is the compound effect, and it's available to anyone willing to trust the process. Imagine dedicating 1 hour daily to mastering a skill that could change your career. In month 1, you're clumsy. You're learning basics, making mistakes, feeling like a beginner. But you're building the foundation that makes everything else possible. By month 2, things start clicking. You see patterns. The fundamentals that felt awkward now feel natural. You're starting to understand not just what works, but why it works. Month 3 brings visible progress. You're creating things you couldn't have imagined creating 12 weeks ago. People start noticing. By month 6, you're operating at a level most people never reach, because they never gave themselves 6 months of daily focused practice. But the real magic happens in year 2. Now, you're not just learning, you're innovating. You're solving problems that beginners can't even perceive. You're creating value that commands respect, opportunity, and yes, often significantly more income. All from protecting 1 hour a day. Now consider the alternative. The path most people unconsciously choose. They spend their free time randomly, 2 hours watching shows one evening, an hour scrolling social media the next day, 3 hours gaming on the weekend. It's not that these activities are evil. It's that at the end of the year, they've consumed hundreds of hours, but have nothing to show for it. No new capabilities, no meaningful progress, no transformation. They're essentially the same person they were 12 months ago, just 1 year older. But here's what breaks my heart and fills me with hope at the same time. Both paths are available to everyone. The person who transforms and the person who stays stuck often have the exact same amount of free time. The difference isn't time, it's choice. It's deciding that 1 hour, just one, belongs to growth instead of distraction. And here's something even more beautiful that Marcus discovered. The hour isn't just about the skill you're building. The hour is rewiring your entire relationship with yourself. Every single day you choose productive action over passive consumption, you're proving something crucial to yourself. You're demonstrating that you're someone who keeps promises to yourself. You're showing that you value future possibilities more than present comfort. You're training yourself to think like someone who's going somewhere. This is why the daily hour changes everything. It's not just about what you accomplish in those 60 minutes. It's about who you become as a result of protecting those 60 minutes every single day. You become someone who grows instead of someone who wishes they would grow. You become someone who builds instead of someone who only consumes. You become someone who follows through instead of someone who just talks about it. And once you become that person, success stops being a question of if and becomes a question of when. Chapter 2. Why most people quit before they even start. Before we dive deeper into how to design your transformational hour, I need to be honest with you about something. Most people who hear about this concept will never try it, and of those who do try it, most will quit within the first week. This isn't because the concept doesn't work. It's because they fall into traps that sabotage them before they give themselves a real chance. I'm going to show you these traps now, not to discourage you, but to protect you, because awareness is your armor. Trap number 1. The more is better. Trap. These are the people who hear about 1 hour and immediately think, why not 2 or 3? They create elaborate morning routines that require waking up at 4:30 a.m. and restructuring their entire existence. Within 3 days, it's unsustainable. They miss 1 day, feel like failures, and abandon everything. Listen to me. Consistency beats intensity. Always. Would you rather commit to 20 push-ups every single day for a year, or do 200 push-ups once and never do them again? The answer should be obvious, but when it comes to personal development, people constantly choose the second option. The magic of 1 hour is that it's sustainable. It's significant enough to create real change, but manageable enough to maintain when life gets chaotic. And life will get chaotic. That's not a question. The question is whether your commitment can survive the chaos. Trap number 2. The perfect conditions. Trap. These are the people who convince themselves they need everything aligned perfectly before they start. They need a dedicated office. They need their schedule to calm down. They need to finish their current project first. They need the kids to go back to school. Meanwhile, months dissolve into years, and perfect conditions never arrive. Here's what successful people understand that everyone else misses. Perfect conditions don't exist. You start with what you have and improve along the way. Marcus didn't have a home office. He started at his kitchen table at 5:30 a.m. before his kids woke up, coffee in hand, laptop open. Was it perfect? No. Was it possible? Yes, and possible beats perfect every single time. Trap number 3, the motivation trap. These people start strong when they're feeling inspired. They attack their daily hour with enthusiasm for the first few days. But then life happens. They have a rough day at work. They don't sleep well. Stress hits. And suddenly, they don't feel motivated anymore. Since they've built their entire approach around feeling motivated, they skip the hour. 1 skip becomes 2. 2 becomes a week. Soon, they've completely abandoned the practice. Here's the truth. Motivation is like weather, unpredictable and mostly outside your control. The most successful people don't wait for motivation. They create systems that make the hour happen regardless of feelings. They schedule it like an important appointment. They prepare everything in advance. They remove decisions and obstacles. They understand that discipline, not motivation, creates lasting transformation. And here's something beautiful. Once you start, motivation often follows. The hard part isn't continuing, it's beginning. Start, and momentum will carry you. Trap number 4, the instant results. Trap. These people start their daily hour expecting dramatic changes within 2 weeks. When they don't see obvious progress, they conclude it's not working and quit. They don't understand that transformation is often invisible in the early stages. Like a seed growing underground before it breaks through soil, the most important changes happen beneath the surface long before they become visible. Real transformation follows a pattern. Month 1. Progress feels slow, almost imperceptible. You might question whether anything is happening. Month 2. You start noticing small improvements. Month 3. Others begin commenting on changes. Month 6. Progress becomes undeniable. Month 12. You've transformed into someone almost unrecognizable from where you started. But you only reach month 12 if you persist through months 1 through 3 when progress feels invisible. Trust the process even when you can't see the results yet. Trap number 5. The no clear focus. Trap. These people decide to dedicate an hour to self-improvement or getting better without defining what that actually means. They spend 15 minutes reading, 20 minutes watching motivational videos, 10 minutes planning goals, 15 minutes working on a skill. At the end of the hour, they've been busy, but they haven't made meaningful progress toward anything specific. Here's the key. The daily hour only transforms your life when it's focused on specific, clearly defined outcomes. You need to know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, exactly how you'll measure progress, and exactly what actions you'll take. Vague intentions create vague results. Specific intentions, compounded over time, create transformation. Understanding these traps is crucial because you will be tempted by every single one. When you start your daily hour, you'll want to do more than 1 hour. You'll want to wait for better conditions. You'll skip days when motivation is low. You'll expect immediate results. You'll be tempted to work on multiple things at once. Knowing these temptations are coming gives you the power to resist them. You can recognize them for what they are. Your brain's attempt to protect you from discomfort. By sabotaging your growth, don't listen. Keep going. The discomfort is temporary. The transformation is permanent. Chapter 3. Designing your perfect hour. Now, we get to the heart of everything. How do you actually structure an hour so it becomes a transformation engine instead of just another block of time? Not all hours are equal. You could spend an hour scrolling social media and end up exactly the same person. Possibly worse because you've trained your brain to crave distraction. But you could also spend an hour so intentionally, so focused, that it literally moves you closer to the person you're meant to become. The difference isn't the time, it's the structure. A truly transformational hour has 4 distinct phases. Master these, and your daily hour becomes unstoppable. Phase 1. Preparation, 5 to 10 minutes. Most people make the mistake of diving straight into action. But this is like trying to sprint without warming up. You might move, but you won't move optimally, and you'll create unnecessary strain. During preparation, you're doing 3 critical things. First, you're eliminating distractions completely. Phone in another room or airplane mode. Computer notifications silenced. Door closed. You've told people around you that you're unavailable unless there's an emergency. You've created a bubble of sacred focus. Second, you're clarifying your intention for this specific session. What exactly will you accomplish in the next hour? What does success look like when time's up? Write it down or state it clearly in your mind. Not vague goals like work on my business. Specific outcomes like draft the outline for my first 3 client service packages. Third, you're getting your mind and body into optimal state. This might involve deep breathing to center yourself, reviewing your bigger goals to remember why this hour matters, light stretching to get blood flowing. The specific actions matter less than the intention. Transitioning from the scattered, reactive mindset of daily life into the focused, proactive mindset of growth. Phase 2, activation, 10 to 15 minutes. This is where you build momentum. Your brain needs time to warm up, just like muscles before intense exercise. Many people fail here because they try to jump immediately into the hardest work. During activation, you ease into focused work with tasks that are important but not overwhelming. You might review what you accomplished last session. You might organize your materials or workspace. You might start with a simpler task related to your main objective that doesn't require your deepest concentration yet. The goal is building confidence and momentum while your brain shifts gears. This phase also gives you time to handle what I call mental resistance. Those thoughts trying to convince you to check email first or start tomorrow when you'll be more prepared, or that this task isn't really that important. These thoughts are normal. Acknowledge them without being controlled by them. The activation phase gives you space to notice resistance and choose focus anyway. Phase 3, execution, 30 to 40 minutes. This is the core, the heart, where real transformation happens. During execution, you're fully absorbed in deep, focused work on your most important objective. No multitasking, no message checking, no mind wandering to other projects, complete immersion in what matters most. The key is entering what psychologists call flow state, that mental zone where time disappears, where you're performing at peak level without conscious effort, where you accomplish more in 30 minutes than most people accomplish in 3 hours of distracted work. Flow requires 3 conditions. The task must be challenging enough to engage you fully, but not so difficult it creates anxiety. You must have clear goals and immediate feedback about your progress. You must eliminate all distractions and interruptions. When these align, flow becomes possible. And when you're in flow, magic happens. Each day you successfully complete a focused execution phase, you're also training something crucial, your capacity for deep focus. Like lifting progressively heavier weights, each session increases your ability to focus longer and tackle more complex challenges. Phase 4, integration, 5 to 10 minutes. Most people skip this entirely, moving directly from focused work back into daily chaos. This is a massive missed opportunity because integration is where learning becomes permanent and progress becomes memorable. During integration, you're doing 3 things. First, reviewing what you accomplished. What worked well? What was challenging? What did you learn? This review helps your brain process and retain everything from the session. Second, planning your next session. What will you work on tomorrow? What materials do you need? What specific outcome are you targeting? This ensures tomorrow starts with clarity instead of confusion. Third, acknowledging your commitment. You just invested an hour in becoming better. That deserves recognition, not ego or self-congratulation, reinforcement. You're teaching your brain to associate focused work with positive feelings, making future sessions easier. When you structure your hour with these 4 phases, something beautiful happens. The hour stops feeling like work and starts feeling like investment. You begin craving the focus time rather than resisting it. You see clear progress instead of wondering if you're making any difference. And most importantly, you develop the kind of deep focus and systematic approach to improvement that separates people who achieve extraordinary things from people who just dream about them. Marcus discovered this the hard way. His first week, he tried jumping straight into execution. No preparation, no activation, no integration. He'd sit down, feel overwhelmed, waste time figuring out what to do, struggle to focus, and finish feeling frustrated. Once he started using the 4 phases, everything changed. His hour became efficient, focused, productive, and most surprisingly, enjoyable. He actually looked forward to it. That's when he knew he'd found something that would stick. Chapter 4. Choosing what matters most. Here's something that will save you years of wasted effort. The most successful people don't try to improve everything at once. They identify the single most important area for transformation and focus on it with loving intensity until they achieve breakthrough results. This might sound counterintuitive. Shouldn't you work on multiple goals? Hedge your bets? Keep your options open? No. And here's why. If you have 1 hour per day and split it between learning Spanish, building a side business, getting fit, improving your relationships, and developing a new professional skill, you're really dedicating only 12 minutes to each area. 12 minutes a day, even done consistently for a year, won't create breakthrough results anywhere. You'll make incremental progress in multiple areas, but you won't experience the kind of dramatic transformation that changes your life. But if you take that same hour and pour it entirely into one area for an extended period, the results become exponential. 1 hour daily dedicated to building a business for a year can literally create life-changing income. 1 hour daily focused on learning a high-value skill can make you one of the most capable people in your field. 1 hour daily invested in health can completely transform your body, energy, and confidence. The key is choosing one focus and committing to it fully. But how do you choose? This decision determines whether your daily hour creates transformation or just modest improvements. Filter number 1, impact. You want to identify the area where improvement will create the greatest positive ripple effect across your entire life. For most people, this falls into one of 4 categories: health and energy. This affects everything else. When you have abundant physical vitality, you perform better at work. You're more patient with loved ones. You think more clearly. You're more resilient when facing challenges. Many people underestimate how much their lack of energy is holding them back everywhere. If you're constantly exhausted, if you don't feel strong and alive, if you're dealing with health issues that could improve through lifestyle changes, focusing your hour on wellness might be the lever that lifts everything else. Financial skills and earning ability. Money isn't everything, but financial stress affects your relationships, health, peace of mind, and ability to pursue dreams. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're not building security for the future, if you're in a career that doesn't fulfill you financially, focusing your hour on developing skills that increase your earning potential might be the most logical choice. Communication and relationship skills. These affect your success in every context. Whether you're advancing in your career, building a business, maintaining a partnership, or raising children, your ability to connect with people and navigate relationships is fundamental. If you struggle with conflict, if connecting deeply feels difficult, if you want to become more influential, focusing your hour on these skills could transform every area of your life. Mindset and emotional strength. This is the foundation everything else builds on. Your beliefs about what's possible, your ability to manage stress and difficult emotions, your resilience facing setbacks, your confidence pursuing challenging goals. These determine what you're willing to attempt and how likely you are to succeed. If you struggle with limiting beliefs, anxiety, lack of confidence, or emotional reactivity, focusing your hour on developing mental and emotional capabilities might be the most foundational choice. Filter number 2, passion and natural ability. While impact matters, you also need to consider what energizes you and where you have potential for genuine excellence. The most successful people aren't just working in important areas. They're working in areas where they can develop real competitive advantage. Ask yourself, what activities energize rather than drain you? What subjects do you find yourself reading about even when you don't have to? What skills do people frequently compliment you on? What achievements make you feel most proud? These questions help identify areas where you have both natural interest and natural ability, the sweet spot where effort feels more like play. Filter number 3, opportunity and timing. Some opportunities are time-sensitive. Some skills become more or less valuable depending on changes in technology, economics, or culture. Some personal goals become more or less urgent depending on your life stage. For example, if you're in your 20s, focusing on skills that increase earning potential might be more valuable than if you're in your 60s and already financially secure. If you're in an industry that's rapidly evolving, developing new technical capabilities might be more urgent than focusing on fitness. If you're going through a major life transition, focusing on emotional resilience might be more important than business skills. Filter number 4, measurability. You need to track progress clearly and objectively. Goals like become more confident or improve my relationships are too vague. But goals like complete a public speaking course and deliver 10 presentations or have weekly one-on-one conversations with each team member for 6 months are specific enough to guide daily action. When applying these filters, be honest about what you really want, not what you think you should want. Don't choose fitness because you think that's what successful people do if what you really care about is building a business. Don't choose making more money if what you really need is better relationships. The daily hour only works when you're genuinely committed to the outcome. And you can only be genuinely committed to outcomes that matter to you personally, not outcomes that sound impressive to others. Once you've identified your focus, define it specifically enough to guide daily actions. Instead of improve my health, your focus might be lose 30 pounds and complete a half marathon. Instead of build a business, it might be launch a coaching practice and acquire 5 regular clients. Instead of become a better leader, it might be Complete a leadership development program and implement monthly team initiatives. The more specific your focus, the easier it becomes to design daily actions that move you forward. And the clearer your actions, the more likely you are to see consistent progress that motivates you to continue. This is how you turn 1 hour per day into the most powerful transformation tool in your life. Chapter 5. Building a system that can't break. Having clear focus for your daily hour is essential, but focus alone isn't enough. You also need a system that makes the daily hour automatic, inevitable, and resistant to the chaos and unpredictability of life. The most successful people don't rely on motivation or willpower to maintain transformational habits. They create systems that make success the default outcome and failure the rare exception. Element number 1, environmental design. This means structuring your physical space so the daily hour becomes easier to start and harder to avoid. Most people underestimate how much environment influences behavior. They try using willpower to overcome environmental obstacles, and willpower always loses long term. Environmental design starts with creating a dedicated space for your daily hour. This doesn't require a home office or special room. It means a specific location that becomes associated in your mind with focused work. This might be a particular corner of your bedroom, a specific spot at the kitchen table, or a regular desk at the local library. The key is consistency. When you always do your daily hour in the same place, your brain begins associating that location with focused work, making it easier to enter the right mindset. Next, eliminate friction and obstacles. Friction is anything making it harder to start. If you're working on writing, friction might be searching for a pen every day or clearing clutter before you can begin. If you're focused on fitness, friction might be hunting for workout clothes or moving furniture to create space. The goal is reducing decisions and actions required to begin. Successful people prepare everything in advance. They set out materials the night before. They clear their workspace. They eliminate any step that could become a reason to procrastinate. The easier it is to start, the more likely you are to start consistently. You also need to eliminate temptations and distractions. This means your phone isn't visible during your hour. Computer notifications are silenced. The television isn't in the same room. Any material that might capture your attention are put away. Creating a distraction-free environment isn't just about avoiding interruptions. It's about training your brain to associate your dedicated space with deep focus. Element number 2, temporal architecture. This means designing the timing and structure of your hour to fit naturally into your existing life and become a non-negotiable part of your routine. Most people make the mistake of trying to find time. They look at their schedule and try squeezing the hour into available gaps. This approach sets you up for failure because gaps are unpredictable and often disappear when life gets busy. Instead of finding time, create time by making the daily hour a fixed appointment with yourself. The best time for most people is early morning before the day's demands begin. When you do your hour first thing, you guarantee it happens regardless of what chaos emerges later. You also benefit from having your highest mental energy available for your most important work. But early morning doesn't work for everyone, and that's okay. The key is consistency, not timing. If you're naturally a night person, your hour might be more effective in the evening. If you have young children who wake early, your hour might need to happen during lunch or after bedtime. The important thing is choosing a time you can protect consistently and treating that time as sacred. You also need activation rituals, specific actions taken immediately before your hour that signal your brain it's time for focused work. Your ritual might be making coffee, doing 5 minutes of meditation, reviewing your goals, or listening to a particular song. The specific activities matter less than consistency. When you do the same things in the same order before every session, your brain learns to associate these actions with deep focus. Element number 3, accountability architecture. This means creating external structures that make it harder to skip your hour and easier to stay consistent. Self-accountability is important, but external accountability is more powerful because it involves other people and often has social or financial consequences. One form is public commitment. When you tell others about your goal, you create social pressure to follow through. This might mean announcing your goal on social media, telling family and friends, or joining a group working toward similar goals. The knowledge that others are watching creates additional motivation. Another form is finding an accountability partner, someone also working on personal development who agrees to check in regularly. You might text each other daily to confirm completing your hour, have weekly calls discussing challenges and successes, or meet regularly to work on goals together. Financial accountability can be powerful too. This might mean investing money in coaching, courses, or materials related to your goal, creating financial incentive to follow through, or setting up a system where you donate money to a cause you disagree with every time you skip, creating a financial penalty for inconsistency. Element number 4, progress tracking. You need a simple, clear way to measure and record daily consistency and progress toward your larger goal. What gets measured gets managed. What gets recorded gets repeated. Your tracking system should capture 2 types of information. Process metrics measure whether you're following your system consistently. The most important is simply whether you completed your daily hour. Outcome metrics measure whether your hour is creating desired results. These might include skills developed, projects completed, milestones reached, or measurable improvements in your target area. Keep your tracking system simple enough that it doesn't become a burden. This might be as straightforward as marking an X on a calendar every day you complete your hour, or a more detailed journal recording what you worked on and accomplished. The important thing is consistency. Track progress every day without exception and review regularly to identify patterns and make adjustments. Element number 5, adaptive resilience. This means building flexibility into your system so it can survive inevitable disruptions, setbacks, and changes. Rigid systems break under pressure, adaptive systems bend, but don't break. Adaptive resilience starts with backup plans. What will you do if your regular time gets disrupted? What if your location isn't available? What if you're traveling, sick, or dealing with an emergency? Having predetermined responses means you can maintain consistency even when circumstances are challenging. It also means having a minimum viable dose. On days when you can't do the full hour, what's the minimum to maintain the habit? This might be 15 minutes or 5 minutes of reading related to your goal. The specific amount matters less than maintaining the daily rhythm. It's better to do something small every day than something big inconsistently. When you combine environmental design, temporal architecture, accountability structures, progress tracking, and adaptive resilience, you create a system that makes the daily hour virtually inevitable. This system removes the need for constant motivation and willpower, making your transformation automatic rather than effortful. And when transformation becomes automatic, extraordinary results become inevitable. Chapter 6: The Resistance That Tries to Stop You. Every single person who attempts to transform their life through the daily hour will face resistance. This resistance isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something important. The bigger the potential transformation, the stronger the resistance you'll encounter. Understanding this resistance and learning to work with it rather than against it separates those who succeed from those who give up. Resistance comes in many forms, but they all have one thing in common. They feel completely logical and justified when you're experiencing them. Your brain will give you perfectly reasonable explanations for why today isn't a good day, why you should start fresh next week, why this goal isn't really that important after all. This is why most people fail. They believe the resistance instead of recognizing it for what it is. Resistance, type number 1, urgency hijacking. This happens when something feeling urgent crowds out your daily hour. You wake up planning to do your hour, but remember an email you need to send, a call you need to make, a problem you need to solve. These tasks feel urgent, so you tell yourself you'll do your hour after handling them. But urgent tasks multiply. One leads to another, and before you know it, the day's over and your hour never happened. The key to overcoming urgency hijacking is understanding the difference between urgent and important. Urgent tasks demand immediate attention, but often have little impact on long-term goals. Important tasks may not have immediate deadlines, but have massive impact on future success. Your daily hour is always important, but rarely urgent, which is exactly why it gets pushed aside by less important but more urgent demands. To overcome this, protect your hour like you would protect a meeting with your most important client. You wouldn't reschedule a crucial business meeting because you remembered an email. You wouldn't cancel a doctor's appointment for a small task. Your daily hour deserves the same protection because it's the most important meeting you have each day, the meeting with your future self. Resistance, type number 2, perfectionism, paralysis. This happens when you convince yourself conditions aren't quite right. Maybe you don't have all the materials, or you're not feeling motivated, or you haven't figured out the perfect plan yet. You tell yourself you'll start when everything's perfectly aligned, but perfect conditions never arrive. Perfectionism feels like high standards, but it's actually fear in disguise. Fear of starting and not doing it perfectly. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of discovering you're not as capable as you hoped. But here's what perfectionists miss. Progress beats perfection every single time. A mediocre hour of focused work is infinitely more valuable than a perfect hour that never happens. To overcome perfectionism, embrace good enough to start. You don't need perfect conditions. You need conditions good enough to begin. You don't need the perfect plan. You need a plan good enough to take the first step. You don't need to feel perfectly motivated. You need to feel motivated enough to start. Once you begin, momentum takes over, and what seemed impossible from the outside becomes manageable from the inside. Resistance. Type number 3. Comparison discouragement. This happens when you look at others who seem to be making faster progress and conclude your hour isn't working or isn't enough. You see someone who's been working half as long but seems twice as far ahead, and you start questioning your approach. Comparison isn't only the thief of joy, it's the thief of progress. When you're constantly measuring yourself against others, you lose sight of how far you've come from your own starting point. You also don't see the full picture of others' journeys. You see their highlight reel, not their behind-the-scenes struggles and setbacks. To overcome comparison discouragement, focus obsessively on your own progress. Measure yourself against who you were yesterday, last week, last month. Celebrate small wins and incremental improvements. Keep a record so you can see how far you've come during moments when it feels like you're not moving fast enough. Remember, transformation isn't a race. It's a personal journey that unfolds at its own pace. Resistance. Type number 4. Motivation dependency. This is the belief that you need to feel motivated or inspired to do your hour. When motivation is high, you attack your hour enthusiastically. When motivation is low, you skip entirely. This creates an inconsistent pattern preventing real momentum. Motivation is like weather, unpredictable and largely outside your control. Successful people don't wait for motivation. They create it through action. They understand motivation often follows action rather than preceding it. When you start your hour even when you don't feel like it, you often find motivation shows up once you begin. To overcome motivation dependency, create activation momentum. Commit to starting for just 5 minutes regardless of how you feel. Tell yourself you can stop after 5 if you still don't want to continue. Most of the time, starting is the hardest part. Once you begin, continuing becomes easier than stopping. Resistance. Type number 5. Identity conflict. This happens when your hour requires you to act in ways conflicting with how you currently see yourself. If you've always thought of yourself as someone who's not good with money, focusing on financial education creates internal conflict. If you've always seen yourself as an introvert, developing presentation skills feels uncomfortable and inauthentic. Identity is powerful because we have a deep psychological need to act consistently with how we see ourselves. When goals require behaviors not matching your current identity, your subconscious creates resistance to maintain consistency with your self-image. To overcome identity conflict, start thinking of yourself as someone who's becoming rather than someone who is. Instead of, I'm not good with money, think, I'm becoming someone who understands finances. Instead of, I'm not a morning person, think, I'm becoming someone who makes good use of early hours. This subtle shift creates space for growth while honoring your current reality. Resistance isn't your enemy, it's information. When you encounter resistance, it means you're pushing against the boundaries of your comfort zone, exactly where growth happens. The goal isn't eliminating resistance, but recognizing it, understanding it, and continuing forward despite it. Every time you act in spite of resistance, you build psychological muscle that serves you in every area of life. Marcus learned this lesson hard. His first month, he let resistance win constantly. Every excuse felt valid. Every reason to skip felt justified. But slowly, he started recognizing the patterns. He started seeing resistance for what it was. Not truth, but fear dressed up as logic. And once he could see it clearly, he could choose differently. He could acknowledge the resistance and do his hour anyway. That's when everything changed. Chapter 7. The Science of Making Every Minute Count. Understanding how to structure your daily hour is important, but understanding how to maximize the impact of that hour? That's what separates good results from life-changing transformation. The most successful people don't just put in time. They engineer their time for maximum effectiveness. They understand the science of learning, focus, and skill development, and they apply it systematically to accelerate progress. Principle number 1, deliberate practice. This isn't the same as regular practice or repetition. Deliberate practice is focused, purposeful effort designed to improve performance in specific areas where you're currently weakest. It requires constant attention, immediate feedback, and willingness to work at the edge of your current ability. Most people practice at a comfortable level. They work on things they're already good at, avoid areas where they struggle, and mistake activity for progress. But deliberate practice is deliberately uncomfortable. It requires identifying specific weaknesses and attacking them systematically, even when it feels awkward and frustrating. For example, if you're using your hour to improve writing, deliberate practice doesn't mean writing about topics you already understand well. It means identifying specific areas where your writing is weak. Perhaps your openings, your transitions, or your ability to explain complex ideas simply, and designing exercises specifically to improve those areas. Principle number 2, interleaving. This involves mixing different but related skills or concepts during your practice session rather than focusing on just one thing. Research shows that while interleaving feels less efficient in the short term, it leads to better long-term learning and performance. If you're learning a new language, instead of spending your entire hour on vocabulary, you might spend 20 minutes on vocabulary, 20 on grammar, and 20 on conversation practice. If you're developing business skills, you might alternate between studying marketing concepts, working on financial planning, and practicing presentation skills within the same session. Interleaving works because it forces your brain to constantly discriminate between different concepts and contexts, strengthening the neural pathways that support understanding and recall. It also prevents the kind of mindless repetition that feels productive but doesn't actually improve performance. Principle number 3, spaced repetition. This involves reviewing and practicing previously learned material at increasing intervals. Most people learn something once and move on to new material, but this approach leads to rapid forgetting. Spaced repetition ensures that important information and skills become permanently embedded in long-term memory. If you're building expertise in any field, Dedicate a portion of each hour to reviewing and reinforcing what you've learned in previous sessions. This might mean reviewing notes from last week, practicing skills you learned last month, or revisiting concepts you studied 3 months ago. This review doesn't feel as exciting as learning new material, but it's essential for building the kind of deep, permanent knowledge that creates expertise. Principle number 4, progressive overload. Borrowed from exercise science but applicable to any skill development, this principle states that abilities grow stronger when progressively challenged with more difficult tasks. Just as muscles grow when challenged with heavier weights, cognitive abilities strengthen when challenged with harder problems. This means your daily hour should become progressively more challenging over time. If you started reading beginner-level material, gradually move to intermediate, then advanced. If you started with simple projects, gradually take on more complex challenges. If you started with short practice sessions, gradually extend duration and intensity. Progressive overload requires careful calibration. The challenge needs to be significant enough to promote growth, but not so overwhelming it creates discouragement or burnout. A good rule is increasing difficulty by about 10% each week, whether that means reading more complex material, tackling larger projects, or extending focus time. Principle number 5, active recall. This involves testing yourself on what you've learned rather than simply reviewing material passively. Research consistently shows that retrieving information from memory strengthens learning much more effectively than rereading or highlighting. Instead of just reading about concepts during your hour, regularly test yourself on what you've learned. This might mean closing your book and writing key points from memory, explaining concepts aloud as if teaching someone else, or creating practice problems and solving them without referring to notes. Active recall feels more difficult than passive review, and that difficulty is exactly why it's more effective. When your brain has to work to retrieve information, it strengthens the neural pathways supporting that information, making it more likely to be available when you need it in real-world situations. Principle number 6, focused attention training. In our distraction-heavy world, the ability to sustain deep focus for extended periods has become a rare and valuable skill. Your daily hour isn't just an opportunity to work on specific goals. It's an opportunity to train your attention like a muscle. This means treating every instance of distraction as a chance to strengthen focus. When your mind wanders, gently bring it back without judgment. When you feel the urge to check your phone, notice the urge and choose to stay focused instead. When you encounter a difficult concept that makes you want to give up, push through the discomfort and stay engaged. Over time, this attention training carries over into every other area of your life. You become someone who can focus deeply when focus is required, who can resist distractions when they arise, who can persist through difficulty when persistence is needed. These meta skills are often more valuable than any specific knowledge or skill you develop during your hour. Principle number 7, environmental optimization. Your physical environment has a massive impact on cognitive performance, but most people never think deliberately about optimizing their environment for learning and focus. Temperature matters. Research shows most people perform best in environments between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Lighting matters. Natural light is best, but if unavailable, bright full-spectrum artificial light beats dim or yellow light. Air quality matters. Stuffy, poorly ventilated spaces reduce cognitive performance. Even small details can have significant impacts. The presence of plants improves focus and reduces mental fatigue. Certain scents like peppermint or rosemary enhance alertness and memory. Background noise can help or hurt, depending on type. Complete silence is ideal for complex cognitive work, while gentle ambient noise can be helpful for creative tasks. During your hour, experiment with different environmental conditions and pay attention to how they affect performance. Find the combination of temperature, lighting, scent, and sound that helps you perform at your best. Then recreate those conditions as consistently as possible. When you apply these 7 principles systematically, your daily hour becomes exponentially more effective. You're not just putting in time. You're engineering that time for maximum learning, maximum skill development, and maximum progress toward your goals. This is the difference between people who work hard and people who work smart. And it's the difference between modest improvement and life-changing transformation. Chapter 8. Making Progress Visible. One of the biggest reasons people abandon their daily hour practice is losing sight of progress. Human beings are wired to seek immediate feedback and quick rewards. But meaningful transformation often happens gradually beneath the surface in ways that aren't immediately visible. Without a system for tracking and recognizing progress, it's easy to become discouraged and conclude efforts aren't working. The key to staying motivated long-term is creating what I call a progress visibility system. Multiple ways to measure and celebrate advancement, both in terms of daily practice consistency and results achieved through that practice. When progress is visible, motivation becomes sustainable. Foundation, streak tracking. This is simply recording whether you completed your daily hour each day. The goal is building an unbroken chain of successful days, and the visual representation of this chain becomes a powerful motivator to continue. You can track your streak using a simple calendar where you mark an X for each completed day. Use a habit tracking app, or even keep a jar where you add a marble for each successful day. The specific method matters less than consistency and visibility. You want to see at a glance how many consecutive days you've maintained your practice. Streak tracking is powerful because it transforms an abstract commitment into a concrete game. Instead of just trying to do your hour, you're trying to keep the streak alive. This subtle psychological shift makes each day feel more important and makes skipping feel more costly. Capability tracking. Consistency. Tracking is only the beginning. You also need to measure how your abilities are improving as a result of daily practice. This requires identifying specific measurable indicators of progress in your chosen focus area. If you're using your hour to improve writing, capability tracking might include metrics like words written per session, time required to complete specific types of projects, or feedback scores from readers. If you're focused on fitness, you might track strength gains, endurance improvements, or body composition changes. If you're building business skills, you might track income increases, project completion times, or complexity of challenges you're able to handle. The key is identifying both leading indicators and lagging indicators. Leading indicators are things that predict future success and can be measured immediately. Pages read, practice sessions completed, skills attempted. Lagging indicators are ultimate outcomes you're trying to achieve, but which take longer to manifest. Income increases, weight loss, promotions. Leading indicators help you stay motivated day to day because you can see immediate evidence that efforts are accumulating. Lagging indicators help you stay motivated long term because they show daily efforts are creating ultimate desired outcomes. Before and after documentation. This involves creating a detailed record of your current situation when beginning your practice and regularly updating this record to show how far you've come. If you're working on public speaking skills, you might record yourself giving a presentation at the beginning and then again every month. If you're learning a musical instrument, you might record yourself playing a challenging piece at regular intervals. If you're building a business, you might document current revenue, customer base, and daily activities, then update these measurements regularly. Before and after documentation is especially powerful during moments of discouragement because it provides undeniable evidence of progress when you're feeling like you're not improving fast enough. You can look back at where you started and see dramatic differences that might not be obvious day to day. Milestone celebration. This means identifying specific achievements along your journey and creating meaningful ways to acknowledge and celebrate when you reach them. Most people are good at celebrating major victories, but terrible at celebrating small wins, which means they miss most opportunities for positive reinforcement. Your milestones should be frequent enough to provide regular motivation, but significant enough to feel meaningful. If you're learning a language, milestones might include completing each course level, having your first conversation with a native speaker, or understanding a movie without subtitles. If you're building a business, milestones might include making your first sale, reaching your first 100 customers, or earning your first $1,000 in monthly revenue. For each milestone, create a specific celebration that feels proportional to the achievement. This might be a special meal, a small purchase you've been wanting, or simply taking time to reflect on and appreciate your progress. The goal is creating positive associations with hard work so your brain learns to crave the process, not just outcomes. Learning documentation. This involves regularly recording not just what you accomplished during your hour, but what you learned, what challenges you encountered, and what insights you gained. This might take the form of a daily journal, where you spend 5 minutes after each session writing about your experience. What worked well today? What was more difficult than expected? What patterns are you starting to notice? What questions arose that you want to explore further? What connections did you make between new information and things you already knew? Learning documentation serves multiple purposes. It helps consolidate knowledge and insights from each session, making them more likely to stick in long-term memory. It provides a record you can review to identify patterns and areas for improvement. And it creates a sense of progress, even on days when concrete achievements are hard to identify. Accountability reporting. This means regularly sharing your progress with someone else who cares about your success and will hold you accountable for following through on commitments. This could be a friend, family member, mentor, coach, or online community of people working towards similar goals. The frequency and format depends on your personality and circumstances, but it should happen at least weekly. You might send a weekly email to an accountability partner detailing your consistency, progress, and challenges. You might post updates in an online community. You might have regular phone calls with a mentor or coach. The key is making your progress and challenges visible to someone whose opinion you value. This external accountability creates additional motivation to maintain consistency and provide support and perspective when you encounter difficulties. When you combine streak tracking, capability tracking, before and after documentation, milestone celebration, learning documentation, and accountability reporting, you create a comprehensive system that makes progress undeniable and motivation sustainable. This system transforms the daily hour from a test of willpower into a rewarding journey of continuous improvement that becomes easier and more enjoyable over time. Marcus discovered this through trial and error. His first few months, he tracked nothing. He just showed up and worked. Some days felt productive, others felt pointless. He couldn't tell if he was actually making progress or just spinning his wheels. Then he started tracking everything: his daily streak, the specific skills he was developing, recordings of his work from months past. Suddenly, progress became visible. He could see undeniable evidence that he was getting better, and that evidence fueled motivation to keep going, even on hard days. That's when consistency stopped being a struggle and started being automatic. Chapter 9. Growing Beyond the Hour. After you've established the daily hour as a consistent habit and begun seeing meaningful results, you reach a critical juncture. This is where most people make one of two mistakes. They either become complacent and stop pushing themselves to grow, or they try to dramatically expand their practice without understanding how to scale effectively. Both approaches undermine long-term effectiveness. The key to sustainable scaling is understanding that growth happens in phases, and each phase requires a different approach. Phase 1. Depth optimization. This happens after you've maintained your hour consistently for at least 90 days and built basic competence in your chosen focus area. Instead of adding more time or taking on additional goals, you focus on getting dramatically more out of your existing hour. Depth optimization involves increasing the sophistication of your practice. If you've been reading beginner-level material, transition to intermediate and advanced resources. If you've been working on simple projects, take on more complex challenges. If you've been practicing basic skills, start working on advanced techniques and subtle refinements. This phase is crucial because it's where you develop real expertise rather than just basic competence. Most people skip this phase because it's less exciting than taking on new challenges, but it's where the highest returns on time investment occur. An hour spent mastering advanced techniques in your area of expertise will often produce more value than 10 hours spent developing basic competence in new areas. Phase 2. Lateral expansion. This involves using your hour to develop skills that complement and enhance your primary focus area. If your primary focus has been writing, lateral expansion might involve developing marketing skills to promote your writing, research skills to improve content quality, or speaking skills to present ideas verbally. Lateral expansion works because most real-world success requires integrating multiple skills rather than just deep expertise in one area. The most successful people aren't just experts in their field, they're competent in all related skills that support and amplify their expertise. The timing of lateral expansion is critical. You should only begin this phase after achieving genuine competence in your primary focus area and after your daily hour has become so automatic it requires minimal willpower to maintain. Expanding too early dilutes focus and slows progress in all areas. Phase 3, temporal expansion. This is where you add additional focus time beyond your original hour, but you do it strategically rather than randomly. Temporal expansion might involve adding a second daily hour focused on a complementary skill, extending your original hour to 90 minutes, or adding intensive weekend sessions for deep project work. The key to successful temporal expansion is maintaining the same level of intentionality and structure that made your original hour successful. Each additional time block should have clear focus, specific outcomes, and the same environmental and accountability structures supporting your original practice. You should also be careful to expand in response to genuine opportunity and enthusiasm, rather than external pressure or the belief that more is always better. The goal is sustainable long-term growth, not short-term productivity maximization leading to burnout. Phase 4, meta-skill development. This involves using your hour to develop underlying capabilities that make you more effective at everything you do. These might include cognitive skills like critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving, emotional skills like resilience, self-regulation, and empathy, or social skills like communication, influence, and leadership. Meta-skill development differs from domain-specific skill development because benefits transfer across all life areas. When you improve your ability to think clearly, you become better at everything requiring clear thinking. When you develop emotional resilience, you become more effective in any situation involving stress or setbacks. This phase often emerges naturally after achieving significant success in your original focus area and beginning to recognize that further progress is limited more by these underlying capabilities than by domain-specific knowledge or skills. Phase 5, legacy creation. This involves using your hour to share knowledge, mentor others, or create something that will have lasting impact beyond your own personal development. This might involve teaching, writing, creating educational content, or building systems and processes that help others achieve similar transformations. Legacy creation is fulfilling because it allows you to give back and multiply the impact of your own development. It's also beneficial for continued growth because teaching and mentoring force you to understand your expertise at a deeper level and continue learning to stay ahead of those you're helping. Throughout all phases of scaling, you must maintain what I call core habit protection. This means that no matter how your practice evolves and expands, you never abandon the fundamental structure that made it successful in the first place. Your daily hour remains daily. Your focus remains intentional. Your environment remains optimized. Your tracking remains consistent. Many people undermine long-term success by getting excited about new approaches and abandoning the boring fundamentals that created initial progress. The most successful people understand that evolution should be additive, not replacement. You build on what works rather than constantly starting over with new systems. You should also be prepared for plateau periods, times when progress feels slow or stagnant despite consistent effort. Plateaus aren't a sign your system has stopped working. They're a normal part of any long-term development process. They often occur right before major breakthroughs and represent periods when your brain is consolidating previous learning and preparing for the next level of performance. During plateau periods, resist the temptation to dramatically change your approach or add complexity. Instead, maintain consistency, focus on refinement rather than addition, and trust that progress is happening even when it's not immediately visible. Plateaus always end, often followed by periods of rapid advancement. The ultimate goal of scaling isn't creating a complex, time-consuming practice that dominates your life. It's creating a sustainable system of continuous improvement that becomes so natural and rewarding, it feels effortless. When you scale effectively, your daily hour doesn't feel like work you have to do. It feels like the most valuable and enjoyable part of your day. Chapter 10. Navigating Real-Life Chaos. The difference between understanding the daily hour concept and actually transforming your life with it comes down to implementation. You can have perfect knowledge of every principle, strategy, and technique, but if you can't navigate the real-world challenges that inevitably arise, that knowledge becomes worthless. This chapter addresses the most common obstacles people encounter when implementing the daily hour and provides practical solutions that work in the messy reality of everyday life. Challenge number 1, life disruption chaos. This happens when your normal routine gets completely derailed by unexpected events, travel, illness, family emergencies, or major life changes. Most people use these disruptions as excuses to abandon their hour entirely, sometimes for weeks or months. The key to surviving life disruptions is having what I call flexible anchors. These are simplified versions of your daily hour that can be maintained even when everything else is chaotic. Your flexible anchor might be 15 minutes of reading instead of a full hour of study. It might be reviewing audio content during your commute instead of working at your desk. It might be doing mental exercises instead of physical practice when you're sick. The specific content of your flexible anchor matters less than maintaining the daily rhythm. The goal isn't making optimal progress during chaotic periods. It's preventing complete breakdown of your habit so you can return to full practice quickly when stability returns. Another critical strategy is implementation intentions, if-then statements you prepare in advance for predictable challenges. If I'm traveling, then I'll use audio content and work during my flight. If I'm sick, then I'll do reading or light mental practice instead of intensive work. If I have family visiting, then I'll wake up 30 minutes earlier to protect my hour. By thinking through likely scenarios in advance and creating specific plans for each, you remove the need to make decisions during stressful moments when willpower is already compromised. Challenge number 2, energy and motivation fluctuation. Even people who successfully establish the daily hour find that some days they feel energetic and motivated, while other days they feel tired and resistant. Most people make the mistake of trying to maintain the same intensity regardless of how they feel, which leads to burnout and eventual abandonment. A better approach is adaptive intensity. This means having different versions of your daily hour that match your current energy and motivation levels. On high energy days, you tackle your most challenging projects and push your boundaries. On medium energy days, you focus on steady, consistent progress. On low energy days, you do maintenance work, review previous material, or engage in lighter practice. The key is never skipping your hour entirely, but matching the intensity of your practice to your current capacity. This prevents the all-or-nothing thinking that causes people to quit when they can't maintain peak intensity consistently. Challenge number 3, progress, plateau, frustration. After the initial excitement of rapid improvement, most people hit periods where progress feels slow or stagnant. During these plateaus, many conclude they've reached their limit or that their approach isn't working, and they either quit or constantly change strategies. Plateaus aren't problems to be solved. They're natural parts of the learning process that should be expected and embraced. During plateau periods, focus on consistency rather than progress, refinement rather than addition, and process rather than outcomes. Use plateau periods to strengthen your fundamentals, explore new perspectives on familiar material, and build the kind of deep, solid foundation that will support your next level of growth. The breakthrough always comes. You just have to trust the process enough to stay consistent through the plateau. Challenge number 4, social pressure and criticism. When you commit to a daily hour of focused self-improvement, you're choosing to live differently from most people around you. This often triggers criticism, skepticism, or subtle pressure from friends, family, or colleagues who feel threatened by your commitment to growth. Some people will tell you you're being obsessive or that you should live a little. Others will predict that you'll burn out or that your approach isn't sustainable. Still others will minimize your progress or suggest you're wasting time on unrealistic goals. The key to handling social pressure is understanding that it's usually more about other people's insecurities than about your choices. When people criticize your commitment to self-improvement, they're often defending their own decisions not to prioritize growth. You don't need to argue or convince them your approach is right. You simply need to stay focused on your own path and let your results speak for themselves. It can also be helpful to find at least one person who supports and understands your commitment to daily improvement. A friend who shares similar goals, an online community of people pursuing personal development, or a mentor who has achieved what you're trying to achieve. Having social support makes it much easier to resist pressure to conform to mediocrity. Challenge number 5, goal evolution and direction changes. As you grow and develop through your daily hour practice, your interests, values, and goals may change. Projects that seemed important when you started may lose their appeal. Skills that seemed crucial may become less relevant. Opportunities you never considered may become attractive. Many people interpret these changes as evidence their practice isn't working, or that they lack focus and commitment. But goal evolution is actually a sign of growth and expanded awareness. As you develop new capabilities and perspectives, it's natural that your priorities would evolve as well. The key is distinguishing between healthy evolution and scattered inconsistency. Healthy evolution involves completing one major focus area before transitioning to another, or gradually shifting emphasis based on genuine changes in your values and circumstances. Scattered inconsistency involves constantly jumping between different goals without making meaningful progress in any area. A good rule is committing to any major focus area for at least 6 months before considering a change. This gives you enough time to push through initial resistance and plateaus to reach the point where you can objectively evaluate your progress and satisfaction. Challenge number 6: perfectionism and self-criticism. Many people who commit to the daily hour are high achievers who hold themselves to very high standards. While high standards can be motivating, perfectionism and harsh self-criticism often become obstacles to progress. Perfectionism shows up as spending excessive time planning instead of doing, abandoning projects that aren't turning out perfectly, or being so afraid of making mistakes that you avoid challenging yourself. Self-criticism shows up as harsh internal dialogue when you miss a day, make mistakes, or don't progress as quickly as you hoped. The antidote to perfectionism and self-criticism is what I call compassionate excellence. This means maintaining high standards while treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would show a good friend working hard to improve. When you make mistakes, view them as information rather than evidence of failure. When you miss a day, focus on getting back on track rather than criticizing yourself for breaking your streak. When progress feels slow, remember that transformation takes time and that consistency matters more than perfection. Implementing the daily hour successfully requires flexibility, self-compassion, and realistic expectations about the challenges you'll face. But when you're prepared for these challenges and have strategies to handle them, the daily hour becomes not just a tool for developing specific skills, but a practice that builds resilience, adaptability, and confidence that serve you in every area of life. Marcus faced every single one of these challenges. There were weeks when travel disrupted his routine, days when he felt too exhausted to focus, months when progress seemed invisible, friends who questioned why he was wasting time on his goals, but he kept going. He adapted when he needed to. He pushed through when he could. He trusted the process even when he couldn't see results. And slowly, consistently, everything changed. Chapter 11. Transforming every area of your life. Once you've mastered the daily hour in one area and experienced its power, a natural question arises. How do you expand this impact to transform multiple areas without diluting focus or overwhelming yourself? The answer lies in understanding how different life areas are interconnected and how improvements in one area create ripple effects that enhance everything else. Principle number 1, foundational hierarchy. Not all life areas are equally foundational. Some areas, when improved, automatically enhance multiple other areas. Other areas are important, but have limited spillover effects. Health and energy form the foundation of everything else. When you have abundant physical vitality, you perform better at work. You're more patient with family, you think more clearly, and you're more resilient facing challenges. A daily hour focused on fitness, nutrition, or stress management doesn't just improve health. It improves your capacity for everything else you want to accomplish. Mental and emotional skills form the second level. Your ability to focus, think critically, manage stress, and regulate emotions affects performance in every context. A daily hour focused on developing these capabilities pays dividends in your career, relationships, parenting, and personal projects. Communication and relationship skills form the third level. Whether you're advancing in your career, building a business, maintaining a partnership, or raising children, your ability to connect with people, influence others, and navigate social dynamics is crucial. Improving these skills enhances effectiveness in almost every life area. Domain-specific skills form the top level. These are skills that primarily benefit one area, like technical job skills, hobby-related abilities, or specialized knowledge. While important for achieving specific goals, they have limited impact on other areas. The key insight is that focusing your hour on foundational skills creates much broader impact than focusing on domain-specific skills. An hour spent developing emotional intelligence will improve your performance as a parent, spouse, leader, and friend. An hour spent learning a new software program will primarily improve performance in situations where that software is relevant. Principle number 2, skill stacking synergy. This involves deliberately developing skills that complement and amplify each other, creating capabilities greater than the sum of their parts. The most successful people don't just have deep expertise in one area. They have combinations of skills that create unique value. Combining writing skills with marketing knowledge creates ability to create compelling content that actually reaches and influences people. Combining technical expertise with communication skills creates ability to translate complex ideas for general audiences. Combining business knowledge with psychological understanding creates ability to build products and services that meet deep human needs. When choosing focuses for your hour, consider not just what skills you want individually, but what combinations would create unique value in your career or personal life. This long-term thinking helps you build complementary capabilities that multiply each other's impact. Principle number 3, sequential mastery. Rather than trying to improve multiple areas simultaneously, you focus intensively on one area until you reach a level of competence that can be maintained with minimal ongoing effort. Then add a new focus while maintaining the first. Sequential mastery works because it allows genuine breakthroughs in each area rather than slow progress in multiple areas. It also builds confidence and momentum that carry over to new challenges. When you prove you can master one challenging area, you develop confidence and skill to master others. A typical progression might look like this. Spend 6 months developing physical fitness until exercise becomes an automatic habit requiring minimal willpower. Then add a financial education focus while maintaining your fitness routine. After mastering basic financial skills, add a communication skills focus while maintaining both fitness and financial habits. Principle number 4, integration and systems thinking. This involves looking for opportunities to combine multiple areas of development within your hour, or to design your hour in ways that support improvements in areas you're not directly working on. If you're focused on business skills but also want to improve fitness, you might take walking meetings, use a standing desk during your hour, or incorporate physical movement breaks into study sessions. If you're focused on learning a language, but also want to improve cultural awareness, you might consume content about the history and culture of countries where that language is spoken. Integration also involves designing your broader daily routine to support changes you're making during your hour. If you're using your hour to develop better stress management skills, you might also adjust your sleep schedule, nutrition, and work environment to reduce stress throughout the day. Principle number 5, modeling and teaching. One of the most powerful ways to multiply your hour's impact is sharing what you're learning with others. Teaching forces you to understand material more deeply, creates accountability for your own practice, and extends your development's benefits to people around you. This doesn't require formal teaching roles. You might share insights with family during dinner conversations, mentor a colleague interested in similar goals, write about your experiences on social media, or simply model the behaviors and attitudes you're developing for people who observe your life. When you become someone who consistently invests in personal growth and shares that journey with others, you influence people around you to take their own development more seriously. This creates an environment where growth and improvement are valued and supported, making it easier to maintain your own practice. Principle number 6, compound interest thinking. Just as financial investments create compound returns over time, personal development investments create compound returns across different life areas. The key is thinking long-term and trusting that investments you make today will pay dividends in ways you can't predict. The communication skills you develop today might lead to a promotion 3 years from now. The stress management techniques you learn might prevent a health crisis 5 years from now. The financial knowledge you gain might enable you to retire early or support your children's education. The physical fitness you build might give you energy and confidence that transforms your relationships. This long-term perspective helps you stay motivated during periods when progress feels slow and helps you make decisions based on long-term impact rather than short-term convenience. Multiplying your impact across multiple life areas requires patience, strategic thinking, and trust in the process of compound growth. But when you apply these principles consistently, your daily hour becomes not just a tool for developing specific skills, but a catalyst for transformation that touches every aspect of your life. You become someone who continuously grows, adapts, and improves. And that identity creates opportunities and possibilities that weren't available to the person you were before. Starting this journey. Chapter 12. Becoming who you were meant to be. While developing specific skills and achieving particular goals are important outcomes of the daily hour practice, the deepest and most lasting transformation happens at the level of identity. When you consistently dedicate an hour each day to purposeful improvement, you don't just become someone who has certain skills. You become someone who grows, someone who commits, someone who follows through despite challenges and setbacks. This identity transformation is what separates people who experience temporary improvement from those who experience lasting change. Skills can be forgotten if not used. Knowledge can become outdated. But when you transform your identity, You create a foundation for lifelong growth that adapts to changing circumstances and continues generating new capabilities throughout your life. Identity shift. Number 1. Growth orientation. This is a fundamental shift from seeing yourself as someone with fixed capabilities to seeing yourself as someone who continuously expands capabilities. Most people operate from a fixed mindset, believing their intelligence, talents, and abilities are largely predetermined and unchangeable. When you commit to the daily hour and begin seeing concrete evidence that you can develop new skills and improve existing ones, this fixed mindset begins to crack. You start seeing challenges as opportunities to grow rather than threats to your ego. You become more willing to take on difficult projects because you trust your ability to develop whatever capabilities you need. You become less threatened by criticism because you view it as information that can help you improve. This growth orientation affects every life area. You become more willing to apply for stretch positions at work because you trust your ability to learn what you need to succeed. You become more willing to have difficult conversations in relationships because you believe you can develop better communication skills. You become more optimistic about the future because you know you can adapt to whatever changes come. Identity shift number 2. Process confidence. This is deep trust that consistent, focused effort inevitably produces results, even when progress isn't immediately visible. Most people lack process confidence, which is why they abandon goals when they don't see quick results or when they encounter obstacles. When you practice the daily hour consistently and see how small daily actions compound into significant results over time, you develop unshakable faith in the process of improvement. You become someone who can delay gratification because you trust current sacrifices will pay off in the future. You become more persistent facing setbacks because you know consistency ultimately wins. Process confidence is one of the most valuable psychological assets you can develop because it enables you to pursue ambitious long-term goals that most people abandon due to impatience or discouragement. Identity shift number 3. Self-efficacy. This is the belief that you have power to influence outcomes in your life through your choices and actions. Many people feel like victims of their circumstances, believing success or failure is largely determined by factors outside their control. The daily hour practice directly contradicts this helpless mindset by providing daily evidence that your choices matter and that you can create positive change through deliberate action. Every day, you choose productive action over passive consumption. Every skill you develop, every goal you achieve through consistent effort proves you have more control over your life than you previously believed. This enhanced self-efficacy makes you more proactive in all life areas. Instead of waiting for opportunities to come to you, you create opportunities. Instead of hoping problems will resolve themselves, you take action to solve them. Instead of accepting unsatisfying situations, you work to improve them. Identity shift number 4. Future focus. This is the ability to make decisions based on long-term consequences rather than immediate impulses. Most people are dominated by short-term thinking, choosing immediate pleasure over delayed benefits, immediate comfort over long-term growth. The daily hour requires you to consistently choose long-term benefit over immediate convenience. Every day choosing to invest time in skills that will pay off months or years in the future rather than consuming entertainment that provides immediate gratification. This daily practice of delayed gratification strengthens your ability to make future-focused decisions in all life areas. You become someone who invests money instead of spending it on impulse purchases. You become someone who exercises regularly despite not seeing immediate results. You become someone who builds relationships through consistent effort rather than expecting instant connections. Identity shift number 5, internal validation. This is the ability to measure your worth and progress based on your own standards and values rather than external approval or comparison to others. Many people are trapped in cycles of seeking validation from others, which makes them vulnerable to manipulation and prevents them from pursuing goals that matter to them personally. When you commit to the daily hour, regardless of whether others understand or approve, when you celebrate progress that only you can see, when you persist through challenges that others would use as excuses to quit, you develop strong internal validation. You become someone who acts based on your own values rather than other people's expectations. This internal validation makes you more authentic in relationships, more confident pursuing unconventional goals, and more resistant to peer pressure or social manipulation. Identity shift number 6, resilience and anti-fragility. This is the ability not just to recover from setbacks and challenges, but to actually become stronger as a result of them. Most people are fragile, meaning stress and adversity weaken them and set them back. The daily hour practice builds resilience by constantly challenging you to persist through difficulty. Every day you maintain your practice despite not feeling motivated. Every obstacle you overcome, every plateau you push through, builds your capacity to handle future challenges. But more than just building resilience, the daily hour can build what Nassim Taleb calls anti-fragility, the quality of becoming stronger under stress. When you consistently use challenges as opportunities to develop new capabilities, when you view setbacks as information that helps you improve your approach, when you emerge from difficult periods more capable than before, you become anti-fragile. This transformation from fragile to resilient to anti-fragile is perhaps the most valuable outcome of the daily hour practice because it ensures you continue growing regardless of what life throws at you. These identity transformations happen gradually, often below conscious awareness. You don't wake up one day suddenly having a growth mindset or internal validation. Instead, these qualities develop slowly through consistent practice, daily choices, and accumulated evidence that you are indeed someone who grows, commits, and follows through. The beautiful thing about identity transformation is that once it occurs, it becomes self-reinforcing. When you see yourself as someone who grows, you naturally seek out growth opportunities. When you trust the process, you naturally persist through difficulties. When you believe in your ability to influence outcomes, you naturally take more responsibility for your results. This is why the daily hour, when practiced consistently over time, doesn't just change what you can do, it changes who you are. And when you change who you are, you change what's possible in every area of your life. Your new life starts now. You now understand everything you need to transform your life through one focused hour per day. You know how to choose the right focus, structure your hour for maximum effectiveness, overcome resistance, track progress, and scale success across multiple life areas. But understanding isn't transformation. Knowledge isn't change. The gap between knowing and doing is where most people get stuck. They consume information, make plans, set intentions, but they never actually start. This is your moment of truth. Let me paint two pictures for you. Picture one. You do nothing with what you've learned. You go back to your normal routine, continuing to consume content about self-improvement, but never actually improving. You keep hoping that someday you'll have more time, more energy, more motivation. You remain the same person you are today, dealing with the same frustrations and limitations. 1 year from now, you're still thinking about the changes you want to make, still planning to start tomorrow, still envious of people who seem to have their lives together. The gap between where you are and where you want to be has grown larger, not smaller. Picture two. You commit to the daily hour starting today. You choose one area that matters most and dedicate 60 minutes every single day to improving it. You face the same obstacles as everyone else, but you persist because you're committed to the process, not just outcomes. 3 months from now, the daily hour has become automatic. You've made noticeable progress, and people are commenting on changes they see in you. More importantly, you've proven to yourself that you're someone who follows through. 6 months from now, the progress is undeniable. You've developed real competence in your focus area. You're more confident, more capable, more disciplined than when you started. You've started seeing opportunities that weren't visible before. 1 year from now, you're a different person. The hour you invested each day has compounded into transformation touching every life area. You've achieved goals that seemed impossible. You've developed capabilities you thought were beyond your reach. Most importantly, you've become someone who grows consistently, who adapts to challenges, who creates opportunities rather than waiting for them. The difference between these scenarios isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's the decision you make right now about how you'll use the next hour of your life. Here's what I want you to do immediately. First, choose your focus. Don't spend weeks researching. Look at your life and identify the one area where improvement would have the biggest impact. Health, finances, career skills, relationships, emotional strength. Choose one and commit. Second, schedule your first hour. Look at your calendar and block out 60 minutes in the next 24 hours. Treat this appointment like the most important meeting of your day, because it is. It's a meeting with your future self. Third, eliminate obstacles. Remove distractions, gather materials, create an environment that supports focused work. Remember, the hour isn't just about the work you do during those 60 minutes. It's about training yourself to prioritize what's important over what's urgent. Finally, begin. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't spend more time planning. Don't tell yourself you'll start fresh on Monday. The most important hour is the first hour, and the best time to start is now. As you begin this practice, remember that transformation isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. You will miss days. You will make mistakes. You will have moments when you question whether this is worth the effort. This is all normal and expected. What matters is that you return to the practice, that you learn from setbacks rather than being defeated by them, that you stay committed to the process even when progress feels slow. Remember also that you're not just changing what you can do, you're changing who you are. Every day you honor your commitment to yourself. You're becoming someone who keeps promises. Every hour you invest in growth, you're becoming someone who values long-term benefit over short-term pleasure. These identity changes are more valuable than any specific skill because they ensure you continue growing throughout your life. Your new life doesn't start tomorrow, next week, or next month. Your new life starts with the next hour you choose to invest in becoming the person you want to be. And that hour can begin right now. The question isn't whether you have the time, energy, or motivation. The question is whether you have the courage to choose growth over comfort, progress over entertainment, investment over consumption. Every moment you delay is a moment that could have been invested in building the life you actually want to live. Your future self is waiting for you to make the decision that changes everything. Make that decision now. Start your hour now. Begin your transformation now. Your new life is waiting.